In this video, we'll work problem 2.3.15 or 0.15 if you prefer from section 2.3 of Essentials of Statistics, 6th edition by Mario Triola. We're given data in the form of a frequency distribution, and it says the given data represent the number of people from a town aged 25 through 64 who subscribe to a certain print magazine. We're asked to construct a frequency polygon, and then we're also asked, does the graph suggest that the distribution is skewed? If so, how? So I'm going to come up with this frequency polygon with you on a piece of paper, and then we are going to choose. This is not the answer, by the way. So that's I guess that's sort of misleading, that initial choice of D. Okay, let me show you my paper. All right, same question. So the first thing that you want to do whenever you're constructing a frequency polygon is you need to find the class midpoints of each of those classes. Now remember how that works. If you want to find the class midpoint of a particular class, all you do is you take the lower class limit and the upper class limit, you add them together and divide by 2. It's the average. It's the value right in the middle of that 25 and that 34. So we'll do 25 plus 34 divided by 2. We'll do 35 plus 44 divided by 2. The same with these guys, 45 plus 54 divided by 2, and then 55 plus 64 divided by 2. Okay, and we'll do the arithmetic now. So we've got 25 plus 34 divided by 2, and we want the decimal, so let's use 29.5. And let's do the same thing for the next class. 34 plus 44 divided by 2, we get 39.5. Well, and that actually makes sense because the class midpoint for this one and the class midpoint for this one, the difference between those should be the same as the class width, and the class width is 10 because to get from 25 to 35, I add 10, and to get from 35 to 45, I add 10. So these should be 10 apart as well. Since these should be 10 apart, I know that this answer will be 49.5 and this answer will be 59.5. Okay, so those are the values that go on our horizontal axis whenever we construct our frequency polygon. Now we also have to add a value here at the beginning and add a value here at the end for what would be the class midpoint of the class before this one if there were anyone in the class before that one. So basically you just want the pattern to continue. If this is 29.5 and we're increasing by 10 to go this way, to go backwards 1, we would decrease by 10. So we're going to start at 19.5 and then we're going to increase by 10 here to get the 69.5. Those are going to be the tick marks on our horizontal axis. There's 49.5, 59.5, and 69.5. That's the 49.5 I didn't make quite enough room for. Okay, and then for each of these, we want to plot the frequency associated with the corresponding class. So the class midpoint of this one was 29.5. There were 81 people in that class. And it looks like our values go from 81 all the way up to 707. So I guess I need to make this a little longer. I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll make those tick marks worth 100 each. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want it to be evenly spaced. Okay. And in the 19.5 category where we have that as our class midpoint, well, that would correspond to the ages between the ages of 15 to 24, and that wasn't on this chart. So we will start with 0. We always start with 0, and we add this point at the beginning and this point at the end so that we start and end at 0. Okay, and then for the class that's represented by the class midpoint 29.5, there were 81 people in that class. So I'll plot that point there. For 39.5, there are 105 people. For 49.5, there are 707 people. For 59.5, there are 556. And then we're back to 0. So this is our frequency polygon. You just connect those with line segments. You start at 0 and you end at 0. And to get those values again, you're just continuing that pattern. You're subtracting the class width from this last one to get what would be the class midpoint for the class before that. And here you're adding the class width to this last one so that you would get the class midpoint for the next class if there were a next class after that. You put all those class midpoints and would-be class midpoints on your horizontal axis. You put the frequencies on the vertical axis. And that's your frequency polygon. So now let's go back to our homework assignment. So we're over here, and I'm looking for something that looks like this. It looks pretty good. C must be it. C has that same shape as the one I drew on this piece of paper. So it must be C. And the question says, does the graph suggest that the distribution is skewed? You'd say yes. Well, that center value, or what we would think of as the center, it's a little bit farther to the right. We can think of this left side as being a long left tail. Since it has a long left tail, the distribution appears to be skewed to the left, or negatively skewed. So that is how you construct a frequency polygon by hand on paper. And remember, you're using the class midpoints and would-be class midpoints at the beginning and end. So you start at 0, you plot the frequencies, you end at 0, and then you just connect those dots with line segments.